Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's special selection comes at us from a Czech guy. Hi, this is a 1974 Czechoslovakia recording combination of the prog rock band Blue Efekt with the Czechoslovakia Radio Jazz Orchestra. The composition is called Nová Syntéza 2, or New Synthesis 2, and it's a long one, but I hope you enjoy. So interesting, they are called the Blue Efekt, but they're also called M Effect and Modri Effect, and they've had quite a few names. It was a little difficult to find the lyrics for this, but I did after I discovered they're under so many different names, with this album being under the title M Effect. So let's dive into it and see what's going on.
Mlčící hájenství prvků mých, prvků tvých, nezměrná tajemství, sloučení leží v nás, vesmír cev vzlínavých, vesmír
Beautiful voice, fantastic control. Did you hear those trumpets? Oh my god, that vibrato. Bass is tearing it up down there too.
Přejdem práh bezhlaví s důvěrou v trvání, stvoření oslaví touhu v nás věčně žít. Šňůru dnů spletenou rozmotáš najednou, děti v nás překlenou, význam dát, význam vzít. Zůstanou dnešní tváře nám může mít dítě nás, toho nás znamená. Dráhu létavicím dává dítě spící.
There's a bit of artifacting. I don't know if that's a term that works for audio, but the bass it's gnarly, the low end. I'm gonna attribute it to the audio quality, but it was also a 74 recording. I don't know if there's any good capturings of the original. They got a acoustic guitar underneath all this, playing rhythmic ideas. Yeah, really digging the dual guitar idea here. Okay. Given that we had that piano line underneath, I thought it was going to take us into the next section. The band winds down, we introduce the foundation to the next part, and that's just not where we went. I love that line. It's simple but so effective at building a specific momentum. Those trumpets are killing it. It's so upbeat, especially with the vocal harmony.
かす
The swells down here on our organ. It's really interesting that they dig into these more melancholic sections for such a short time before going back to bombast and uplifting. I'm curious what instruments are present in this orchestra. Primarily because the brass seem to be getting all the attention. But here we got a saxophone, so very yes right there. Musically having everything come crashing down to level the musical field again. Are we walking down chromatically over there on the left? I mean, we're done now, but... Walking up chromatically. Ooh, I can get behind that. This band is real fond of harmony. They're real fond of call and response. Textural layering as well. In fact, layers in general. So, I love the bass line. Here we go, the same line over and over, adding more layers. First texture, then harmony. Okay, when do we get so jazzy? Yeah, spiced up the tempo, bass is walking fast, nice up-tempo swing on the, nope, not swing, on the drums. Okay. Yeah, almost like coming back in with the A. Yeah. Ooh. I love the way the drummer modulates in here. Getting real playful with the soloists, and they're all right together. It's clean. I was gonna say, dude, take a breath. Golly. gonna get one more? No, actually, okay. Huh. When it comes to a song with a large development to it, possibly even one with a slow burn, you want to end on your highest point. And that's going to be different for everyone. You know, some people might come to your music and not like any of it. It just flatly stays at zero the whole time. Um, so it really is up to you as a musician and composer to figure out what's the high point of the music, and it's going to be informed by what you like, your influences, and stuff like that. To me, the peak of this song was the jazz section, which came out of nowhere and I loved so much more than everything else I heard, that when we returned back to the prog rock to wrap it up, I was a little underwhelmed. I was reminded that this wasn't a phenomenal jazz track with a pretty standard swingy A section, that it was a hyper layered, incredibly dense prog section or prog track that just happened to have a jazzy solo section in it. And for the ending to feel as flat as it did, even with the rising stingers at the end, compared to all the energy and revitalization I had felt during the solo sections, like I said, it just felt a little underwhelming to me. If you come at this probably from a prog rock perspective, if you're a real big fan of prog rock, you probably enjoy all of it. But prog rock is one of those styles for me that I can usually appreciate what's going on and the intentions behind it. And prog rock consistently gives me really lengthy videos, which this will probably be one of as well, not just because they're long songs, but because I have a lot to say about them. They are genuinely worth talking about, and I am interested in what they're doing. But on a casual level, it's a genre that just hasn't really grabbed me. And that certainly happened here around the 17-minute mark when I began to get a little fatigued of what they were doing and found, like I said, a revitalization, a second wind when the jazz section came back in. And I was really hoping they were going to take this and finish out the track with it. It makes sense to come back to our original idea to wrap the song up. I just I enjoyed the jazz section a little more and wish we had stuck with it for a little while longer. Even just one more solo I would have really appreciated. But that's all very subjective. Objectively though, what's with the orchestra here? It doesn't feel very big. And maybe I was just expecting something larger. Czechoslovakia radio. Oh, it's a jazz orchestra. Man, it really helps to have reading comprehension. That was stated too, wasn't it? With the radio jazz orchestra. You know, it really helps when you read stuff to actually comprehend what you're reading. So this was a jazz group, possibly something akin to a big band, which is why we had sax and trumpet primarily. That makes a lot more sense now. I was waiting that whole time for the orchestra to come in. The strings and the tubas and the woodwinds outside of the saxes, and we just never got it, and that's because they weren't there. I don't know how I missed the word jazz, but yeah, that completely changes my interpretation. Not interpretation. relationship to the song. And a lot of my hangups, especially in the first 10 minutes or so, um, are gone. Like I said, I was waiting for something that wasn't ever going to happen. So, yeah, that whole section, I was going to ask what was up with the orchestra and list off, the little amount of instruments we actually had from it, but I mean, well, that's might as well even just cut that out. Really helps to listen and read. Um, so what is going on here? This is a pretty typical prog rock track here, in that a lot of the experimentation tends to be not mathematical, rhythmic, anything like that. It's a experimentation of sound. And so we have quite a few different instruments. At any one time, I think we had four separate guitars going at once, which I thought was impressive. We also have pretty typical jazz-inspired bass work going on here, which could even lend this into the what is it, jazz fusion realm, if you want to take it that way. I mean, jazz fusion is just prog rock with jazz, and I mean this was prog rock and had a jazz section in it, so I don't think that it's too far out of the picture to call this jazz fusion. Um, we had tons of vocals. Then, of course, we had the trumpet section, the sax section, a piano, and a synth, organ, probably, more likely, and drums. And I think there might have been two drummers. I'm not 100% certain on this. The majority of the track, though, felt like a rock drummer, and there at the end, we had a straight up fast swing style jazz. And, like, yeah, one drummer could have definitely done it. Um, but the style of drumming that we went into was so far divorced from where we had been previously, um, that it would not surprise me if the jazz orchestra's drummer took over for the Blue Effects drummer there. Um, oh, we had the choir, or maybe it was just the members of the band and the orchestra singing. Because it's not like they were really aiming for notes. It's more of a general, oh, like I'm not a singer and I can still get the gist of it. You don't need a choir for that group vocal section. So we have a lot of instruments going on here, and they utilize all of this sound not just in combining textures, but also combining layers in ways that probably at the time were very experimental. Now it's just modern. It's just typical to mash stuff together like this. Commonplace, I think, is the word I wanted. It's commonplace to do all of this, but at the time it might not have been. And so we have the experimentation of textures, right? And this is something I was talking about too during some of the slow burn sections, where we'll have one melody come in and it'll repeat itself like 20 times. But on the third time, we'll bring in two other instruments. They'll hit the same pitch, but they have different timbres. And then maybe on the sixth time through, one of them will come up a little bit and create some harmony there. And then on the eighth time through, the other one will come up and make a three-part harmony. And then on the 10th way through, the one at the bottom will go up to an octave and make a new. It's the same harmony, but it has a different root. And then maybe the trumpets will join in on it. We'll get some more texture. It's all about adding these layers, spicing things up, right? You've written something once, but have you explored it? And it's like the complete opposite of heavy metal, which was like, hey, we wrote one lick or one riff. That should constitute 80% of the track. We'll be fine. This is the exact opposite. You've written something once, you're going to play it a lot. Why have you stopped writing there? What else can we do with this? How else can we explore it? How deep does this rabbit hole go? So you write a one bar phrase and explore it through texture layering, through harmony layering, through instrumental layering. What happens if you put this other instrument underneath? What happens if the drums change what they're playing against it? What happens if you bring in the synthesizer here, the organ probably? and we'll give an organ part here, and it's all about starting small and layering it up, and we get these lengthy 3 and 4 minute slow burns out of it. That honestly, once you take all three, four of the slow burns out of this, you have a pretty standard jazz track where you have your A section at the beginning, which is the core uh, verse, if you want to call it that. And then we have our jazz section at the end that brings us back to our A section, just without vocals this time. Pretty typical jazz. And then we throw in like four slow burns in the middle, and we call it prog now. That's the only difference here. And even this idea of layering, though, we can see inside of our A and B sections when we had the vocals at the beginning with our verse and chorus. It's not so much just about writing 3 or 4 parts and letting them be. It's about writing so many layers and always having room to add something else. And the production was not there for this. This isn't an official channel, so I don't know how good of a quality this file was before YouTube got a hand of it and destroyed it. And that doesn't even count how good of this quality was to begin with. 1974, this might have been a live recording, straight to tape. Getting some of the room sound in there, possibly even. I mean, yeah, it's an old recording. So, an old recording that was re uploaded onto YouTube with questionable fidelity of the original file, and then YouTube's real good at destroying music. So, yeah, the production wasn't up to par here, but I can't blame that on them because I have no idea what it sounds like if I were to listen to this on an official, vinyl or something. But yeah, hyper dense with the layers. I love many of the individual instrument parts. I don't know if I made that clear throughout most of this. The bass lines were phenomenal. I don't think there's a single one that I was like, probably could have done better with that. They were all tasteful, but worked well with the ideas going around them, and very rarely ever static. The bassist put in work, and I love to hear it. The trumpet lines, every time they came in, granted, a lot of it was stinger work, hitting a note rather loud and rather big. But there were some really nice licks that we got out of them, plus that super wide vibrato at the beginning. And I'm just going to dig into a little bit of trumpet tech right here. So, my thoughts about that very wide vibrato on the trumpets at the very beginning of the song is that you hit the note, and vibrato can come from here. It can come from, well, you can't see diaphragm. You can actually change wavering air pressure. Not the best way to go about doing it, but it's possible. It can come from here, or it can also come from here, your embouchure, your lip muscles. And you can kind of move your lips up and down. You can kind of make like a wave kind of thing with them. All sorts of ways to modulate the sound itself to give it the vibrato. But if you have seen Dizzy Gillespie play trumpet. I'm pretty sure it's Dizzy. When he gets his vibrato, he shakes the whole trumpet. And the thing about that is that you lose the contact with your lips. Whether you're just moving it up and down or all around or whatever, you're going to be moving it away off of the lips a little bit. Even if you come up, the mouth is shaped in a way, right? So unless you are just jamming it into your mouth, ensuring that the connection is always there, you're going to be loosening the connection in places, and that really gives you a width to the vibrato. It just overemphasizes it, and I'm fairly certain that the vibrato here was really big movements of the instrument itself, changing the contact with the face and thus the type of sound that the mouth is making into the mouthpiece. That's my guess. If it's not, and if it is purely embouchure or diaphragm or anything, I will be impressed. I don't know how we could even look this information up. Hopefully, there's a live performance of it somewhere. But again, I mean, 74, I don't know. But if I was given direction to do this, that would be my gut instinct right there. Is I'm moving the trumpet. It's the only way I'm getting that big enough of a sound difference. Um, but yeah, especially at that range, because the higher you play, the faster you need to buzz your lips, which means you're putting a lot of pressure on these muscles right here already. And diaphragm based vibrato, yeah, it ain't gonna do it. No, that's instrument movement right there. So yeah, brass players, weigh in here, back me up if you think I'm right. If you got a different technique you think, let me know. I mean, that's how I would do it though. And the thing is too, is that once you start moving it, you can lose complete contact if you move the instrument too far. Um, and then you're not making any noise. So it's risky, but it's the way to get that sound. Kind of just really impressive the consistency of it across the whole trumpet line as well. So, what else did I like? What else did I like? The vocals, just beautiful. We didn't get a lot of them. Maybe a collective 2.5 minutes. But beautiful vocalist. Once again, the vibrato is just really nice here. Vibrato is really big in older music. Prog rock's really big on vibrato too. We don't really hear too much of it today outside of pop, unfortunately. I wish rock would really bring the vibrato back. Even pop music got away from the vibrato for a little bit. Actually, I take that back. We don't have a lot of it now, do we? I mean, auto tune would erase it because it would find it as imperfection. So you have to be. I mean, I think that's the reason why when I think of vibrato, I think of Mariah Carey. I think of Beyonce. People who are really strong singers already, more so than your big pop stars like your Billie Eilishes and I don't know who else. But yeah, vibrato isn't very big at all today. Kind of is like an older thing now, isn't it? Anyway, so just gorgeous voice. The guitar lines are nice. All the solos are beautiful. I loved them. So yeah, like I pointed out just a lot throughout the track, though, individual lines that just really stood out to me. But of course, the track isn't about anything individual, especially with the production as the way it is, or at least the fidelity of the audio the way it is. It has a very collective sound to it. I don't want to say wall of sound in particular because I think that alludes to instruments getting lost inside the whole, but there is a feeling that everything is working together to be like a train. So many moving parts that you can see individually, but of course all come together to make the train. And that's kind of what it feels like to me. With all the hyper layering and the density, it's just super dense of a track. At almost every moment of the song, there's just like 15 layers going on at one time. It is kind of bonkers. Um, but yeah, so the overall mood though, what's going on with this? This one's interesting to me because it is very light and bouncy and poppy and just uplifting in almost every section of it. And then we have these, 4 bar transitions, interludes of melancholy that I don't know how to reconcile against the rest of it other than I don't know, like moments of sadness coming over that you immediately dismiss in order to feel happier about something, and like that could be related to a lot of different concepts. But then these slow burn moments in the middle of the track where we just seem to get hyper fixated on it. You know what it is? It kind of feels like, have you ever sat somewhere and just been in your mind, right? no technology, no social media, no, portable video games, no newspaper, nothing. It's just you in your mind. And sometimes it wanders. And you'll think about happy things, and then you might, have a little sad memory, like, actually, let's get back to the happiness. And maybe it's some bittersweet stuff and a little mix of both. And then you get hyper fixated on something, and you just like can't stop thinking about this one specific thing. And that's kind of what the slow burn sections throughout the middle of the track feel like. It's just a series of hyperfixation. These would be the moments when someone walks up to you and like, hello, anybody in there? And you like snap out of it, and you like realize that now it's 9 at night and you never ate dinner. Where have I been for the past 6 hours? And you've just been in your mind, and that's what this feels like. Which then makes the jazzy section interesting because it stands out completely from the rest of the music. There is a jazzy element to a lot of the music, but we never went full jazz, and this part sort of sheds its entire prog rock element and goes full jazz. The bass, well, the tempo kicks up higher than it's ever been. I don't think we had too many tempo shifts throughout the song, but this was definitely the peak. The drums shift into some fast jazz drumming. Love it. Real heavy emphasis on cymbals and even a little bit more emphasis on snare than jazz typically has. Having these wonderful accents throughout there. The bass is just killing it with these walking bass lines. And then we get a series of solos with pretty typical big band transitions between solos going on. Um, and it's just such an infectiously joyous section. And then we return back to something that almost feels dreary in contrast, which is phenomenal because I just got done describing the prog rock section, especially the A section, as primarily upbeat and energetic. And compared to where we were, it feels like we're dragging now. Contrast is amazing. It's amazing in how it can recontextualize things. But what does it all mean? Like I said, it's stream of consciousness for me. It's sitting in your mind for a while, exploring so many facets of your past, your future, your present. I don't know if that's necessarily what they were going for, but that's where I went while listening to this track. There's probably a lot of stuff I've missed, but I think those are the highlights that I really wanted to talk about, and I can't think of what else to say about it. So we're gonna hit the lyrics real quick. I do have to translate them from Czech, so we're probably gonna lose all the wonder of it, which kind of sucks. The rhyme scheme typically gets lost, things get lost in translation, but it's the best I got without learning Czech to do it myself. So, yeah. Just seems like a lot of pretty typical drug induced prog rock stuff. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Gong in a sense, but without. I mean, it's translated too, so I mean, it might have had some of the fun uh, sound stuff that Gong liked to play around with, where the string of words didn't necessarily make sense, but the sounds that the words made musical sense or rhythmic sense, right? That kind of stuff. So some of that might have been lost in the translation here, but the direct meaning of the lines are very drug-induced prog stuff. What you think of when you think of hippie music, I suppose you could say. Um, there's two sets of lyrics. I'm going to wager they were the first time we heard the lyrics, and then we had that like 3-4 minute gap, and then the second set of lyrics coming in. The first one seems to lean into the secrets of the universe, and the desire to figure it out, maybe, while crossing the threshold of creation. Um, to say I don't understand it exactly is an understatement, but there's a general gist here of the exploration of knowledge through the means, through whatever means it takes. Interestingly, though, the second half makes less sense. There is one repeated line that we see about 8 times. It says, "I would like to have the eyes of two Picassos." I get the gist of it. Picasso saw the world interestingly. Um, and so you would like to see the world through his eyes, but what is the purpose of two Picassos? Does that make the world doubly as different? Your perception of it? I don't know. It says, "Give things a different order, to know why it suddenly transforms in the eyes. Know the color blue, bluer than Monday. Put out the sight of the mannequin on your canvas, white fish standing. Know why the sudden shapes of houses in familiar streets." I don't know. So I'm open to having interpretations of these lyrics thrown at me, because I have absolutely nothing on here. It's all a bit nonsensical, but also seemingly profound at the same time, which is very prog. And this song is very prog. So, I mean, they go together in the sense that I'm used to reading these types of lyrics with this type of music, but I don't really make much sense of it. And it doesn't go along with my experience with the music at all. So I have no way of tying these things together, unfortunately. With that said, those are my thoughts on M Effect, or Blue Effect, or Modri Effects Nova Syntéza 2, featuring the Czechoslovakia Radio Jazz Orchestra. What did you think? Hit me up in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed it, if there's anything that stood out to you, anything that you'd like to expand on what I said, or correct me on, or whatever. This was a wild ride, and I'm more than happy to have conversation about it, because I don't know how much I've helped people understand it when I feel like I have so small of a grasp on it myself. Above the comments in the description box, you can find a link to Linktree. This menu takes you to my music, takes you to the Discord server. You can find ways to support the channel in here. It's got tons of stuff. Go ahead and check it out. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to check out more unusual. Hey, this was kind of unusual jazz. No, it wasn't unusual jazz. It was jazz. Jazzy. But yeah, today we had 2 jazz tracks, which is nice. Anyways, until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.